Quoting Adam Segal from the Council of Foreign Relations, the story of Chinese tech companies over the past 15 years is that they grew quickly and then they became innovative because they existed in a space that the state did not fully regulate and did not fundamentally understand. But now it has clearly laid down the marker and said that era is now over. In light of recent regulatory crackdowns on Chinese tech giants such as Didi and Alibaba, the primary question then becomes, firstly, why is this happening? And secondly, is this efficient? In China, regulatory bodies use reputational mechanisms to achieve policy objectives. These mechanisms are acts of public shaming that take place before the regulatory agencies officially impose sanctions. The severity of these sanctions are often conditional on the speed and effectiveness of the firm's cooperation. To examine this, we will firstly look at Didi, a vehicle for hire company which is headquartered in Beijing, as an example. On July 10th, the draft on cybersecurity investigation measures was released. Companies owning the data of more than 1 million consumers will have to have overseas listings approved by CAC. Didi's official app was taken down from online app stores. This crackdown then later intensified, with a further 25 apps run by Didi Global purged from online stores. The foremost rationale in this case is related to data security. In 2015, Didi researchers used this data to analyze the travel patterns from China's ministries to try to compare the productivity of different ministries. While big data is a much prized commercial asset in today's world, it can also turn into a liability, especially amid rising concerns from international consumers about data security. In addition, tightening US scrutiny has put Chinese regulators on high alert on cross-border data transfer issues. The Holding Foreign Companies Accountable Act specifically targets Chinese companies by demanding tougher audit requirements, and this may be why Chinese regulators pushed Didi to postpone its US IPO beforehand to conduct a self-screening of data security risks. But in spite of all of this, Didi still rushed ahead to complete the IPO. Didi shareholders may have underestimated the regulatory power possessed by Chinese authorities, and that it is this disobedience which incensed the state to widely publicize this crackdown on Didi, thereby using the previously mentioned strategy of public shaming to disrupt its IPO process and then in turn diminish its appeal to the wider market as a form of punishment. According to the efficient market hypothesis, the price of stocks reflects the value of all the publicly available information about the company to investors. Therefore, any news about the fundamentals of the company is immediately absorbed and reflected in the share price. The following announcement of anti-monopoly investigations into Ant Group and the accompanying criticisms personally addressed towards its founder Jack Ma across major state-sponsored networks serves as the catalyst for a free fall of Ant's IPO valuation. Again, in this case, reputational mechanisms were utilized. For example, in 2021, a hefty 2.8 billion fine on the company in April was launched for anti-monopoly violations, which fueled Ant Group's first loss in 9 years. Now, while there are many other reasons in play, ultimately it was Jack Ma's overt display of his dislike of the traditional banking system in China which triggered the crackdown. Prior to Ant Group's IPO on the 24th of October, Jack Ma accused Chinese banks of operating with a pawn shop mentality. He stated that the authorities were trying to use the way to manage a railway station to manage an airport when it came to regulating the new world of digital finance. Now, in the aftermath of this statement, the IPO was called off and Jack Ma was not seen again in public until late January. Ultimately, the party wishes to push and to promote Chinese firms up the global value chain. However, as firms gain a larger market power, the concerns about disrupting regular market operations, about data security, and about value allegiance with the party arise, which has in turn called for greater regulation. Now, for regulatory agencies, public shaming strategies can be a cheap, efficient, and debatably economic means of enforcement. changing a firm's image and reputation amongst customers. The negative effect of a company's reputation and its stock price is the traditional marker of financial wealth, which serves as a warning to other businesses to act with integrity, or at least the predefined CCP moral integrity that is in line with the social political objectives of the party. However, while utilizing reputational mechanisms, policymakers need to be very careful about their technique and their timing, as to ensure that these companies pay a reasonable cost instead of incurring excessively heavy losses that ultimately affect the company's future operations.